So, hey folks, I don't normally buy guitars like this. The only reason I got this is because it was so cheap and I wanted to see if I could make a good guitar of it. This is a Martin Smith W700 Dreadnought, and you might be forgiven for thinking it is spruce and some kind of mahogany, sapele or something like that. It is not. It is all basswood, made to look like those woods. I do believe the fretboard is actually rosewood, which was a nice surprise. And if you look at these inlays, they look like birds, reminding you of something. So I've had one Martin Smith before. This is my second one. Both remind me of brands like Artol, Glary, Rogue, that kind of production value. I think these technically sell for about $139 with a gig bag, but you can always pick these up cheaper in the $80, $90 range, sometimes even lower on Amazon and eBay. The reason I normally stay away from them is because I don't tend to like all basswood guitars, although I have to say this one doesn't sound bad at all. Rather surprising. It sounds alright. Nice bright tone, not much depth, but not overly nasally. And you know, originally I thought Martin Smith must be the name of the owner or some kind of luthier, but now I'm starting to think it's more of a tacky marketing scheme. The reason being, the last time I listed one of these really cheap, and somebody emailed me and said, "Wow, a Martin?" And I had to explain to them, no, it's not a Martin, it's a Martin Smith. And now I see the birds, the inlaid birds on here, and I think Paul Reed Smith. Now it just twigs that Martin Smith, you know, sort of a conglomerate name of two famous guitar companies just for marketing purposes. It's kind of sinister in a way, but I'm starting to think what the name actually means. It's not a reference to anyone in particular. It's just sort of taking two parts of two well-known guitar companies and fusing them together, which I've seen done before, so it's not new. Dreadnought Cutaway, white binding, ABS binding, even bound neck. The Rosewood fretboard and bridge is a nice surprise. However, it's got the rough finish look that I noted on the last Glary that I had. You can see imperfections. You can see imperfections with the binding. You can see in the finish, you know, certain little bleed or not quite great lines, which is what I noticed about the Glary guitars, and I've seen it with Artol and Rogue and other really cheap guitars on mostly on eBay and Amazon. Are these little telltale signs of very, very rushed production. And I actually angered a lot of the Glary fanboys with those comments. They seem to think they are the greatest bargain in guitar history. I'm not as convinced. The two or three I've had were all problematic. And this one here, I wouldn't actually encourage anyone to go out and buy this unless they had some setup skills. If you know how to bevel fret ends, set action, redo or configure the truss rod, possibly even mess with tuners and recut nut slots, things like that. This is not going to be a fun experience for you. I bought this, and when it arrived in the box, the strings were flat against the fretboard. It had the worst back bow I've seen on an acoustic guitar in some time. Luckily, there was enough thread in the truss rod to release that and get the action where it needs to be. So it worked out, but I could see probably 9 out of 10 people receiving that guitar the way I got it and just boxing it right back up and sending it back. Another thing is the fret ends were really sharp. I don't mean just sort of protruding. I mean like little knives sticking out of the side of the fretboard. Now some of that is attributed by the dry weather here where I live. I have to do fret end beveling on everything that gets sent here, even really high-end guitars like Blue Ridge and Martin, Taylor, stuff like that. So I'm used to doing it. However, this is a bound neck, and the protrusion of the frets was such that even if it was shipped from a more humid area, I still think it must have had pretty bad frets. I don't think they were laid in evenly either, because the frets on one side protruded way more than the other. Stuff like that. I don't know anyone. I even know some luthiers who would just box this up and send it back. I mean, I really had to bevel these fret ends quite a bit, and luckily it worked out for me. But you know, as I was doing that, then I had to worry about, well, do I have high frets somewhere? Is there hump at the body joint? Those kinds of things that you see in cheaper guitars with no QC. This company has no quality control, none. And I've seen on Martin Smith guitars some fairly bad ratings, so it's not a one-off. That's the way they send out guitars. That's the way a lot of companies send out guitars, and I don't understand how they make any money. If you are getting 80-90% of your guitars returned, how does that, and you're selling them at rock bottom prices in the first place, how does that transmute to any sort of profit? It may explain why these companies come and go very quickly. However, if they just had some kid with basic setup knowledge at the warehouse or distributor, wherever they ship them from, who just gave them a 20-minute go-over before shipping them out, I think it would cut down their returns by, probably as much as 70-80%. There's just none. So I wouldn't advise a kid to go out and order this, or a parent to order this for their child. The only people that should buy these are people that can do the work, set them up, and perhaps sell them on, or for some school or something like that, they would work. Interestingly, you have all these cheap telltale signs, and then when you get to the headstock, there's this really almost over elaborate embossed, they call it embossed on the website. It just it's interesting because this here, the finish, and the guitar is so minimalistic, with just the purfled rosette and then the purfled / ABS binding, very, very plain woods, no figure at all. Feels like a very cheap varnish too. And then you come to the headstock. Sorry, I knocked over the camera there. You come to the headstock, and you get this sort of over elaborate deal here, and you can't really make out Martin Smith from that logo either, which is maybe a good thing. But anyway, it's got the really cheap tuners on it, which are fine. They work fine. And it comes with a reasonable gig bag, which is good. I always give companies kudos for that. It may have a couple of accessories in the pocket as well. So credible Dreadnought. Great that it has Rosewood fretboard and bridge. I wasn't expecting that, because there's nothing on there's no website for them, and there's nothing on the Amazon listings to tell you what the wood is on the fretboard, so I kind of took a chance on that. So credible guitar. The one thing that just is going to put people off is just the complete, and I don't mean just low QC. I don't mean like they take a 50-50 risk when they ship these out, like a lot of companies do. I mean, it's I just can't see anyone. The way I got this guitar, I can't see anyone keeping it except for people like me, who can do basic setup work. But yeah, that's the downside of these guitars, is they arrive non-playable and needing considerable work. I couldn't believe the back bow on this guitar. I was wondering if the truss rod would actually loosen enough to get the playing angle playable at all. Luckily, it had enough thread on there for me to slacken it and get it to a nice playing angle. But that's going to put people off. I mean, I could see somebody ordering one of these, shipping it back and making a mental note: Martin Smith, never again. Martin Smith, tell all my friends, don't buy that. It's odd. It's something I see a lot in the budget side of the guitar world. We love that side. We find bargains. This channel is all about finding bargains. But there are some companies, I just don't know how they survive. I mean, they have absolutely no quality control. The guitars are not set up to play at all, not even remotely. And this kind of falls into that category. This is the second one of these I've had, and they would have both been sent back by 90% of buyers. I'm seeing that with other companies as well, but it just happens to be this company that has been almost 100% in non-playable guitars shipped to me. All right, folks. See you on the next one.